The horror game genre is one of the biggest, most lucrative game genres since the conception of the first-person shooter. I pray you didn't believe me when I said that. Today we will explore the styles of horror games. Come on this ride with me. We all have much to learn. The first scary game I remember playing was Nemo for the Nintendo game. That game was terrifying. Did you see that shark? This game falls under the backseat horror category. Backseat horror is exactly what it sounds like. Something that wasn't built for horror, but it's terrifying. Harry Potter 3 for GameCube is one of those games. I never made it past the train part, and that game went back to Blockbuster fast. Although they weren't built for horror, the contrast of the primary element amplifies the scary part. This gives them an advantage over our next category, unintentional backseat horror. Games under this category think they're horror games, but they're something else. Puzzle games disguised as horror games. Those sneaky Most of these games aren't dummy-proof, so instead of making me feel like Sherlock Holmes, these games turn me into Jonah Jameson. This is the prevailing horror category in my experience. Your favorite horror games probably fall under this category. You can hit the dislike button now. I'm talking Amnesia, Little Nightmares, and I'm talking Resident Evil. Told you. I'm sure you've guessed it by now, but this category is the reason for this video. My problem with these games is not the fact they self-identify as spooky Scrabble. My problem with these games is their tendency to make the puzzle aspect all-consuming and all-powerful. They'll have you nearly asleep when they should have you too afraid to walk to the bathroom without the buddy system. Many games created in this fashion aren't bad games. Little Nightmares' art direction leaves you wanting more. Resident Evil's plot twists span over multiple games. I have respect for these games, but I also have frustration. It is the definition of a love-hate relationship. In the end, the experience is often worth the headache. Cinematic horror. Tell me when you see the naming scheme. Another self-explanatory category, cinematic horror, entails those games that are actually interactive movies. Until Dawn is what I'm talking about, and The Quarry seems to follow the same gimmick. I like movies, and I like these games. They're Mortal Kombat with a horror story on top, and I don't particularly like Mortal Kombat. Luckily for us, they release slowly enough that we don't exhaust ourselves with the genre. Unlike in Call of Duty, where we get only snippets of our favorite actors, these games can give actual screen time to them, and place us in the action, whether we have significant control over the story's outcome or not. I would love to see this explored more. Finally, my last category. True horror. Games under this category are only interested in horror. No Scrabble, no bananagrams, just horror. Puzzles and other secondary focuses stay in the back seat because a horror game doesn't need to be hard. A horror game needs to be scary. Otherwise, it doesn't qualify. When I look back at Amnesia, I see backtracking. The missing puzzle pieces I don't remember finding or not finding, and the frustration that comes along with it. Five Nights at Freddy's might not be a masterpiece, but at least they kept their focus on horror. Among the Sleep is the only other game I've played that I can place in this category, because when I look back, I remember a scary baby game that made my diaper heavy. It wasn't a long game, but it was long enough. It felt fresh and imaginative. That's ultimately what I'm looking for in a game. The search can be tedious and risky, but they're always worth it. The inspiration from something fresh and creative can fuel me like the funny juice fuels Bane. I once spent around 4 hours making a trailer for a game like this, and the finished product was only 1 minute and 11 seconds long. I love that video. Someone once said, you have to try things you might not like, because, and I quote, you never know where the inspiration's gonna come from. I couldn't agree more.